A witness sat at the table in the House Judiciary Committee hearing room and said one sentence about Sharia tribunals operating inside the United States. She named 2 organizations. She named the man who heads one of them. Then she said music, those organizations are issuing religious orders to kill apostates and blaspheme on American soil. There is a name in the 11-page tribunal policy out of Dallas music. You haven't heard yet. We're getting to it in about 4 minutes. There is a quote that organization put on its own website. There is a little girl born somewhere in Texas this year who has no idea what her constitutional rights are because her community will never tell her. The witness's sentence is in the back half of this video. The Republican from Wyoming sitting across from her had been waiting for it. The hearing room was a House Judiciary Committee chamber on the 3rd floor of the Ray Broom building. The witness was identified for the record as Miss Meckleberg, a researcher and former member of a Muslim community, who had spent more than a decade documenting how Sharia-based tribunals operate inside American cities. The Republican Congresswoman from Wyoming was Harriet Hageman, a constitutional lawyer who had spent 25 years arguing federal cases before she ran for Congress. She knew how to question a witness. Music, she held a printed document on her desk. The hearing had a single subject: Sharia tribunals in the United States. Meckleberg had testified at previous hearings that these tribunals existed in at least a dozen American cities, and that women and children inside them were systematically denied constitutional protections. Hageman had thanked her then today. She had a follow-up. She wanted Meckleberg to put a name to one specific girl, not a category, not a statistic. One child born this year somewhere in Dallas-Fort Worth area, who is about to grow up answering to a religious court that the United States government cannot see inside. Hageman began by reading from the website of an actual tribunal operating just outside Dallas. She did not paraphrase. She quoted, "The tribunal described itself in its own words as a unique institution of its kind in the United States, established with the intention of setting a precedent that would be emulated and duplicated throughout the country. That is not a fringe claim. That is the tribunal's mission statement." The same website continued, "The courts of the United States of America," the tribunal wrote, "are costly and consist of ineffective lawyers." Hageman let the line sit. The committee staff in the back row had heard it before. The C-SPAN cameras were rolling. The tribunal was telling its members in public the American judicial system is inferior to its own. Hageman moved to the Constitution. She named the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 14th Amendments. She read them out loud. She asked Meckleberg whether voluntary participation in a Sharia tribunal could ever truly be voluntary when the participant is a teenage girl who's never been outside her religious community. Meckleberg answered. She said that from birth to death in communities across Texas, there were now fully operational parallel societies. An American child could be born, raised, married, and buried without ever speaking to a non-Muslim. And inside those societies, she said, there were courts. And this is the part most coverage of the hearing left out. The alums running those courts, Meckleberg said, were not American-trained scholars. They were coming in from outside the country. And they were not just they were Sharia judges. She named 2 organizations that the public has never heard discussed in a congressional hearing before. The Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, the FIG Council of North America. The FIG Council is currently chaired by a scholar named Yasir Qudsi. Meckleberg named him by name on the record. She said the assembly was the legal arm operating inside the broader community network, the body that issues thoughtless the religious rulings that Sharia courts inside the United States are then expected to enforce. Stay with me because the next sentence is the one Hageman had been waiting for. There's a detail in what Meckleberg said next that nobody in the room saw coming. The assemblies fought, as Meckleberg said, were not theoretical. They were not historical. They were current. They were issued this decade. And one specific category of those foughtas, the category Hageman had brought her here today to discuss, concerned what would happen to apostates and blasphemers, people who left the faith, people who insulted it. There is a difference between fearing what a foreign religious court would do to you if you went there and discovering that the same court has set up an outpost in your American hometown and is already issuing rulings about you. Meckleberg drew that distinction inside her testimony. She said it without raising her voice. She said that the little girl being born this year inside one of those communities will never know she has First Amendment protections. She will never know she has the right to leave the faith. She will answer to her family. She will answer to her imam. and she will answer to a Sharia jurist who, in Meckleberg's words, may have been appointed by the same body that just issued a fatwa about people in her position. Hageman pivoted to oversight. She listed the things American courts do: public records, filed decisions, attorneys in the room, transcripts of every proceeding. Then she asked Meckleberg the question every member of the subcommittee already knew the answer to. How does any of that exist inside a Sharia tribunal in Texas? Meckleberg's answer was 4 words long. It does not. And I'm saving for after this what Meckleberg said next, because the line that made the hearing go viral landed in the next 30 seconds. Here's what happened next. I'm going to describe it as it appears in the official hearing transcript. The Sharia judges, Meckleberg said, who sit on those councils, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists and the Fiqh Council are putting out thought was that you can kill apostates, blaspheme. She paused. She said it again. This is happening inside America. The room did not gasp.